question answer session in Satsang. So if you have any questions, please ask Swamiji. Yes, yes.
Hari Om. I have a question about the Dakshinamurti Stotram. The first line says that the Lord taught via silence, but the teaching of Vedanta involves many shabda. So what is meant by that?
Chitram vatataro mule buddha shishya guru riva gurustu mauna vyakhyanam shishyastu chin samshaya mauna vyakhya prakritapara brahma tattvam yavanam. So the verse says that look at the great wonder under the banyan tree where the guru is young and the shishya, the disciples, are old. Chitram, a great wonder, Vatataror Mule, under the banyan tree. That Guru is maunam, silent, shishyastu chinna samshayaha, but all the doubts of the disciples are all cut asunder, meaning that the discourse takes place in silence. So this silent sermon on the part of Lord Dakshinamurti, and we can imagine the highest level of Guru and the highest level of Shishya, where Dakshinamurti, Lord does communicate through this chin mudra or this gesture of the fingers, which symbolically shows the oneness of this finger, which stands for, this accusing finger stands for the jiva, ego. This thumb, which stands for Ishvara, because the thumb supports even the finger in doing whatever it needs to do. So while remaining apart, the thumb supports all the fingers. So this is how, now these three fingers represent the three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. This accusing finger represents the ahankara, the ego. So as long as this finger is with the other three, so long it is samsara. Then when this finger turns away from the other three and turns towards the other one, the thumb, ultimately discovers the oneness. So this is the symbolic meaning of the oneness of the ahankara, jiva and Ishvara. In circle there is no beginning, no end, meaning that in their identity there is total oneness and total fullness. So this is how symbolically Lord Dakshinamurti communicates to the disciples. So we imagine here the teacher of the highest caliber and disciples also the highest caliber who can get the message in silence. So silence also conveys, not it does not convey. Ramana Maharshi is well known to communicate in silence, and many aspirants have reported that in presence of Ramana Maharshi their doubts, the questions were all answered. So apparently it is not just silence, it is the individual. Although Puja Swami did not like this kind of a thing, by the way, he always used to say, even though the verse says that Dakshinamurti conveyed in silence, he talked. Meaning that Puja Swami strongly believed that communication requires words on the part of the teacher, and that's when the disciple can get the meaning of the verse. So that is what Puja Swami always insisted. What the verse says, of course, literally, is that the communication takes place in silence. All the doubts of the aspirants are cut asunder. Mauna Vyakhya Prakritapara Brahma Tattvam. Prakatitam, one who has revealed. Brahma Tattvam, the truth that is Brahman, Mauna Vyakhya, by the silent sermon. Then of course Varshishtante is surrounded by the sages who are old and the teacher who is young. Acharyendram Karakalita Chinmudram, the greatest of the Acharyas, the teachers, who displays this Chinmudra or the Jnana Mudra or the gesture of knowledge. Svatmaramam Mudidavadanam Dakshinamurti Mide. Svatmaramam, who revels in himself. Mudidavadanam, the joy which is emerging from his heart, which he experiences, is evident. So gentle smile there is in the face of Lord Dakshinamurti. So this is a traditional interpretation of that verse. And the wonder there under the banyan tree, where the Guru is silent and young, the disciples are old, and just by the silent sermon, all the doubts are removed. So this is the traditional interpretation of Dakshinamurti. I thought one question is asked, so other people will gather courage to ask also. We are concerned when we ask question in presence of other people, how will I sound? How will other people think of me? No?
Swamiji, if this is all Maya or Mithya, then why does right action or karma matter? Or even dharma?
If all of this is Mithya, Mithya means that which does not enjoy independent reality. Satyam and Mithya, here in the Vedanta Dindima. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jiva Brahma Hivanapara iti Vedanta Dindimaha. This is the Dindima, the drum with which Vedanta declares the Brahma is Satyam, Brahma is truth, real, and Jagat is Mithya. Mithya means that which does not enjoy independent reality. Mithya means that which doesn't remain constant even for a moment, is subject to constant change. And therefore you can never determine what its true nature is, because by the time you determine, it has already changed. And which depends upon, which for its existence depends upon some other reality. That's all Mithya means. Mithya does not mean it is not there. When they use the word Mithya, that Jagat is Mithya, that world is Mithya. Even to translate Mithya as unreal also would not be quite accurate. Mithya is technically Badha Yogyam, which is subject to being negated. That's called Mithya. Dream is a very typical example of what Mithya is. Because when we wake up, then we know that even though I experienced the dream, even though I thought it was real when I was experiencing it, when I wake up, I find there is not a trace of it. Meaning that the whole dream, this is called negation of the dream. Badha or negation in the light of a superior truth. Meaning that the dream does not exist from the standpoint of the waking. When I was dreaming, that time the dream was real for me. It is from the standpoint of the waker that I realize that dream was just an appearance. So Mithya is that which is subjective, which is a projection, which is an appearance. And that's what the universe is. In fact, for the Vedantin, creation means projection. Vedanta's stock example of creation is a rope snake example. You know rope snake example? What is rope is perceived to be a snake. So how snake is created from rope? Can you raise the volume a little bit, Sahadev? So as far as Vedantin is concerned, the snake is created, understand? From what? From rope. Or better said, the rope appears as a snake. What is there is rope, and therefore, even when I think it is snake, what it is rope, rope appearing as snake. Or in technical words, upon the rope there is projection of snake. So in technical words, the rope may be called the adhishthanam substratum. Snake is adhyaropa projection. So every creation is of the nature of adhyaropa. For Vedantin, creation means superimposition upon what is real. Therefore, this universe also is a projection. It is not the projection of individual mind like my dream is. It is a projection of the cosmic mind, Ishvara's mind. So what we call the waking world also is a projection of the cosmic mind, but it is projection nevertheless. And therefore, it is not independently real. It's an appearance, just as the rope appears as a snake. Something appears as a universe, which is Brahman. So Brahman or Ishvara appears as a universe. Therefore, as far as the reality is concerned, the Jagat is called Mithya. Unreal appearance, projection. But then Mithya has its own... this Mithya is so systematic. There are laws in Mithya also, and it functions in a very systematic way. Not always predictable, but then much predictable. So it's very systematic. Also bound by various laws. And so, therefore, there is a certain harmony in Mithya also, that things are connected with cause and effect. This Mithya universe also has this cause and effect relationship. Therefore, the karma is called the cause, and karma phala, the outcome of the action, is the effect. Cause and effect. So, cause creates an effect. What happens is that effect is not, there is no finality about effect. That effect itself becomes a cause to produce another effect, becomes a cause to another effect. That's how you are swept in a chain of the cause and effect. That's called samsara. And so, just because it is Mithya does not mean there is no system in that. This Mithya is very systematic, meaning that it is bound by the laws of cause and effect. So you better perform karma properly. But whoever performs karma is accountable for the result. So karma is Mithya, result also is Mithya. But I don't know that it is mithya. Therefore the pain is real. If mithya is not known as mithya, then what happens to me is real for me. A ghost may appear which may be mithya, but to me it is real. Sometimes they even give the example of a house or a room which is dark, in which there is one lamp. And that lamp, and you are sitting there, it causes a shadow in the wall behind you, and if you look there, there's a huge thing there. Just a shadow. If I do not know it is shadow, it may scare me. So all of these things are involved even in the mithya world. So you have to follow the rules.
Swamiji, what method would you recommend? What you say is most important for us to transport what we learn and experience here in the ashram during retreats, and when we go back home, how to have this with us or establish this more?
Well, a good thing is, even while you are listening to this, I think a part of the mind should be also scrutinizing what does it mean to me. So what the teacher would tell us is a general principle, rope and snake, for example. But then what does it mean to me? What is that rope as far as I am concerned? What's a snake as far as I am concerned? So what happens is that we listen to Vedanta and teaching all right. We understand all the reasoning and so forth. But what it also requires is to connect that teaching with ourselves. So what is this rope in my life? What's a snake in my life? Teacher will get away by giving example of water and clay and this and that and everything is, What is clay and what is pot as far as I am concerned? What is rope? Atma is the rope. What is snake? The Ahankara, the Jiva is the snake superimposed upon Dhamma. So this way, we have to understand this teaching in our own context. That is when it becomes relevant to us. Otherwise, we do understand the teaching, we understand the principles, we understand the reasoning. But unless it is connected to I, I'm not saying it is not connected, but I'm saying unless it is connected to I, it does not impact me. We were in school and studying the geography and history and all these topics, Never interested me. You could not remember all this geography, so many rivers and mountains and crops and this, that and so forth. My history, what does it matter? The Mughals came. One day when I was sitting in my office in New York City, this is many years ago, and there was a world map on that wall. Then I saw that how geography affects history, how history affects geography. Because this country has a lot of rich resources and the neighbor is very greedy. How this fellow attacks? Why? Because this has some resources. So how geography created history? They took over, whatever happened, battles happened. So when we understand, or a good teacher is the one who always helps us understand what does it mean to me. Otherwise, Sanskrit also is okay. We don't. A teacher a good teacher is the one who has to understand what does it mean to me, how does it help me. It is Sanskrit, geography, history, whatever. Otherwise, it just goes from here to there. I've forgotten most of the things that supposedly studied in the school because, I could not connect them with I. A good teacher will connect things with I. Then because whenever that I can feel what geography means, what history means. And so, when you listen to this, what does it mean to me? And that is when it becomes real to me, and then I know. When I know what it means to me, then I know how to live that.
Thank you.
Pranam Swamiji and Swamiji. How can you resolve Gneya, Gnatva and Gnanam in the mind? What should be the thought process to give up knowership? Gnanam, Gneyam and Gnata. How do you resolve that in the mind? Like, what should be the thought process to resolve that?
Jnata the knower, Gneyam the known, Jnanam knowing, knower knowing. By recognizing that there is one principle that is playing three roles. There is one principle called consciousness which plays the role of knower, known and knowing. So when you realize that, how to resolve the difference exists at a certain level. And the level of roles, the difference exists. The knower also is a role, known also is a role, knowing also. But when I realize who the actor is, who is playing the role of the knower, the consciousness associated with I becomes knower. Same consciousness associated with the object, a name and form, becomes the known. Same consciousness associated with the vritti or thought of the mind becomes knowledge. So these three are the roles played by one actor. When you see that, oh, I see one self playing the role of his knower, known, knowing. Then the roles are given up. When you know the role is given up already. The role is recognized, the role, already it is given up, you follow? Only when the role is taken to be real, then it has an impact upon you. So resolving that, the knower also, the same consciousness in one role is called knower. Same consciousness with name and form as a costume is called the known. Same consciousness with the costume of the thought is called knowledge. But what is the content of all the three is one. That's how it is resolved. From the role to the actor.
Pranam Swamiji. So we say Brahman is untouched, Nirakara, Nirguna. So can you expound upon how Maya has its basis in Brahman?
Good question. Well, Vedantins come back to the stock example of rope snake, Would you say that snake is the basis in the rope? In what way? It's a perception, a projection.
Projection, more so projection.
So snake is a projection upon rope, which is technical adhisthana or substratum. So That's the relationship between Brahman and universe. Brahman is in place of rope, universe is in place of snake. There need not be a connection, understand? There need not be a real connection between the substratum and the projection. Just as between rope and snake, there is no real connection. And so also the rope remains untouched. Somebody may look upon that as a snake, somebody else may look upon that as a garland, somebody else may think it's a stick, and variety of perceptions or misconceptions exist about the rope, untouched. And so also Brahman is in that place upon which these all projections are there. But one thing about the projection is that it does not affect the substratum at all. All the guna, Bhashyakara says that guna and dosha, the virtue and vice of the projection, doesn't affect the substratum, the adhisthana. And so you can look upon Brahman as you want, it remains unaffected. And you are Brahman, understand, it's not a third entity. So you remain unaffected, regardless of how you look at yourself. And thank God for that. I look at myself as a small, little, miserable person. Thank God I did not become miserable. Otherwise, life would have been miserable. But in spite of having all kinds of notions and false perceptions of myself, thank God that I remain totally unaffected or untouched by all those projections.
Hari Om Swamiji. One question. Lately, there had been few deaths in families, own and friends, and there was an opportunity to learn little bit about Garuda Avatar. Garuda Purana. In that, the way the journey of Jiva is explained, it was scary, quite a bit. And when I tried to relate it to the second chapter of Gita Ji, Sankhya Yoga, where it is described by Lord Krishna that na kledyate apo nacha dahati pavaka. So the soul is probably in that aspect it is described as it cannot be cut, it cannot be
destroyed, yes.
So how it relates, and in Vedas, throughout these years, I have learned from you, another Guruji. In Upanishad also, there is no concept of what has been described in Garuda Purana. So how would I understand or relate it? Thank you. Hari.
That is the Atma Satchidananda, and it has a costume. So this is the gross body, then there is subtle body. So this combination of subtle body and the gross body becomes a costume of Atma. What transmigrates is not the gross body because it remains here. The subtle body that transmigrates from one gross body to the other. Atma also doesn't transmigrate because it's everywhere. It is the nature of the subtle body to always be enlivened by consciousness. So wherever the subtle body is always enlivened. But the subtle body requires the medium of gross body to manifest itself. So it is here right now, when the prarabdha karma is over, what is called death is departure of subtle body from this gross body. And according to karma, it gets into another gross body. So, yes, Garuda Purana, etc., describes, I don't know, I'm not read it, but I describes for us what is hell and what is naraka and what kind of pain and sufferings are there and so forth. And I guess it is just to make us aware of how to live a righteous life so we can avoid all that suffering. So the description of suffering is there to discourage us from doing something that can bring about that suffering. So this is your consequence. Beware, stay away. So some fear is required in us. Otherwise we may take liberty. There is a tendency to take liberty with the laws. If no traffic patrol is around, according to my little, device, I can take liberty. And so also the mind takes liberty with the laws of morality, etc. And that process creates papa and suffering. And so this Garuda Purana and such other things tell us that you can't get away from the laws of nature. That just because nobody was watching you, still it's all noted in the cosmic computer. And you are accountable for the consequence of what you do. So therefore it's described in such terrifying terms that you stay away from it. It is not, yes, Garuda Purana, the description may be scary, but to scare away from the consequences of papa. It is not that every jiva has to go through that. They are all the results of the papa karma that a jiva may have performed, which most jivas perform abundantly, and that may be the fate of many, but that doesn't have to be the fate of everybody. So it teaches what not to do.
Swamiji, what is the most important thing a spiritual aspirant can practice?
What's the most important thing is there are various things. The most important, if you can do, is called Nididhyasanam, meditation upon the true nature of myself. That may require mananam, that will require shravanam. So we can say shravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam are the most important things. Because the nididhyasanam is meditation upon the meditator, and that requires the clarity about what the nature of the self is, which requires mananam, and that requires shravanam. So I think shravanam, mananam, nididhyasanam. But if you don't see the need of shravanam, then mananam nididhyasanam. Don't see the need of mananam nididhyasanam. So I would not say what is the most important for a given person. So could be that all you need is nididhyasanam. Or maybe most people need shravanam and then followed by mananam, followed by nididhyasanam. Because they say, Paunah punyena shravanam kuryat, listen to the scriptures again and again to get clarity. This example you must have heard, which was given by our Puja Swamiji. In the olden days, we had a camera called the Polaroid camera. And that was a wonder. Those days, this is 60 years ago. And you pull out the frame, and it takes a couple of minutes for the whole picture to develop completely. As you take out the frame, all you see just some faint outline. Swami is sitting in the chair, faint outline. As the time goes, then slowly the features become clearer. Oh, you can see now the outline, you can see the eyes, and you can see the nose and lips. In 2 minutes, the whole picture is very clear. So this is how more shravanam you do, the things become clearer and clearer and clearer. It's quite amazing that the same story we hear number of times, but many people report to me, Swami, today the 10th man story clicks something else. So the story may be the same, but we may have changed, hopefully. And that's how Shravanam is very important. But I cannot insist that you keep doing it all the time, It is most important for Mananam, most important for Nididhyasa. You get the clarity. And that they need not be separate processes. Even when listening to teacher, Mananam that takes place, even Nididhyasana also takes place, by the way. Because the text gives the reasoning also, teacher also gives the reasoning. And in your mind also, that anusandhanam, that the thought flow of the Atma is going on in one way or the other. So that way, Shravanam is very important. And you can study yourself also and can do the Shravanam Mananam. This, I must make sure that the teacher's institute is maintained, If I say you need not shrav, then what will we do? When we talk of sannyasa, we tell the audience, this is not for you. Because if you take sannyasa, who will give us bhiksha? So you are required, so we get bhiksha.
Oh, Swamiji. Can you please expound about the Akhanda Vritti when we, if I say it correctly, maybe I'm not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Akhanda Vritti. Akhanda means a division. Usually there is a khanda or division in every transaction. So just as she talked about the knower, known, knowing. So usually in the knowledge of objects other than me, like the pot and cloth, etc., there is a duality of the knower and the known, because what is known is different from the knower. Now when we come to the knowledge of the knower, then the knower also is the same as the object of knowledge. You follow? When it comes to knowledge of the self. And therefore that must necessarily erase the duality of the knower and the known. So that insight or perception or the knowledge that takes place of recognizing that I'm consciousness, I'm Brahman, then there is no duality between, because I am the object of my knowledge. There is no duality of the knower and the known. There is no khanda or the division. So that insight is called akhandakara vritti. It's called vritti in the state of mind, meaning that this knowledge takes place in the mind, but not in a conventional way which involves the duality of the knower and the known. So you get this insight, I am Brahman. And it need not be a great mystery, by the way, because we get scared. But even today also you know yourself, don't you? I know I'm a Swami. Whichever way I know. Meaning that the knowledge of self is always there. Understand this. The knowledge of the self is always there because self or Atma is self-revealing. Therefore, I am always conscious of myself. Therefore, the knowledge of self is always there. Meaning that self-knowledge doesn't ever take place that I did not know myself and now I know that I exist. I always know that I exist. Aham asmi sada bhami kadachin aham apriyaha. This much I know. General knowledge I have. That I am Brahman, that particular knowledge to take place. So I know myself always. There is a problem also. If I am not aware of myself, there is no problem in the life. You know when that is? When we are fast asleep. No samsara. As soon as you wake up, this fellow always reveals, limited, etc. And therefore we have to deal with that. So the I is always known. The right way of saying will be, the Atma that is wrongly known has to be known rightly. You follow? Not the unknown Atma has to be known. Usually they say, Ajnana Jnapakam, Pramanam. Pramanam means Ajnana, you know something that was unknown. Atma doesn't fall in that category. I wish it was unknown, there would be no problem in my life. An unknown thing cannot become a problem. A known thing also cannot become a problem. A wrongly known thing becomes a problem. So, as Puja Swami says, I am the problem to myself, which is known wrongly. I am the solution, that is known rightly. So the teacher will teach us always not by actually negating what is false, falsely known, or my notions are negated. Vedanta teaches us by so-called neti-neti, or by negation, negating the notions of the false knowledge. Negation requires a basis that is already there. The I am always there, always known to me. And so it's not that an unknown Atma has to be known. In the wrongly known Atma also there is a right element and a wrong element. When I say I am a man, the I am is right about me. The man is a notion about me. So what the scriptures do is to negate these notions, leaving me to see myself as I am. So don't be scared by akhandaka, vritti, etc., etc., You always have vritti. Always know that I am. Except I think I know I am so and so. That so and so aspect is what we are examining. Do I make sense? Okay.
It's time, Swamiji. Swamiji has had a long day. Yes.
Thank you. She's very kind, always. Always very kind. So shall we conclude? Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om